Good evening, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. This is Rich again, back for your third and final video blog of the night for Wednesday, October 15th, 2014, around 8:22 p.m. in Billerica, Massachusetts. The sun is down and crickets are out because it's a very warm night. High low is going to be around 55 to 60. Tomorrow's going to be very humid with a chance of heavy rain in the afternoon and to the evening in this area. Could be 1 to 2 inches of rain or 3 to 4 if they get a heavy plume of moisture. And Friday and Saturday's weather should be in the 70s, but we'll be back down to earth next week with temperatures where it should be this time of year. Some news to report: the Kansas City Royals beat the Baltimore Orioles by a score of 2-1, sweeping the Orioles in 4 straight games to capture their third American League pennant. This is the first time the Royals are going to the World Series since 1985, and they won the World Series in 1985. 8 straight wins by the Kansas City Royals this postseason. They're only 4 more wins away from winning the World Series championship. But the next step is going to be a tough test between the St. Louis Cardinals or the San Francisco Giants. And I gotta tell you, I think whoever wins the St. Louis Cardinals versus San Francisco Giants series for the National League Championship Series is probably going to win the World Series, even though I don't want to see the Giants and Cardinals win it. There's something that tells me that the Royals are going to crash and burn when they go into the World Series to face against the Cardinals or the Giants. And I think it's probably going to be the Giants winning the National League Championship Series and going on to the World Series and beating the Kansas City Royals and stuff like that. We'll wait and see, but I have my gut feeling that the Royals are probably going to crash and burn when they go to the World Series. Just my humble opinion. And also, actor Neil Patrick Harris is going to host Oscars this year again. And also, one more thing, 2015 syndicated game shows that are being pitched by could be a revival of What's My Line and a Monopoly $1 Million game, which has already been confirmed for a goal for 2015 because it's been sold to 95% of the country. It's based out of the scratch ticket game with Monopoly. And, you know, that would be pretty good. Somebody could win $1 million. Plus, there's talk that CBS might revive the Hollywood Squares for 2015 and syndicate it. Probably not going to be hosted by Tom Bergeron because he's hosting Dancing with the Stars, and I think he's too good to host a game show now. And also, there's talk about Hollywood Game Night being syndicated by NBC as a daily syndicated show. So we'll wait and see about that. And that's about it on the news. My next subject is my personality profile of the night, and it's about legendary former pro football announcer, the late Ray Scott. The late Ray Scott was one of the best pro football announcers of all time. He broadcast over 40 years of calling football games, NFL, college on television and the radio, and he was like the #1 play-by-play announcer for the NFL on CBS for many years. Ray Scott grew up in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and he began his career broadcasting on local radio in the late 30s and stuff. And then he started calling football games, NFL games, in 1953 on the old Dumont Network, which was the 4th network back in the 50s. He called NFL games for the Dumont Network for 3 years until they folded. And then in 1956, he joined the CBS Sports, which they picked up rights to broadcast NFL games, and he was assigned to do Packers games with Tony Candido for about 12 years and so. And he was one of the best announcers for like the NFL. One of his famous quotes was "Star, Dowling, touchdown, Green Bay." That was one of his most famous quotes. And also, another one, it's very cold in Green Bay. He would say that a lot when it was cold games in Green Bay, Wisconsin. He said that famously in the 1967 Ice Bowl, which was the Dallas Cowboys against the Green Bay Packers for the NFL championship, which a game he broadcasted for CBS Sports with Jack Buck. And he called several NFL and NFC title games and 4 Super Bowls, the first one, the second one, the sixth one, and the eighth one. And he was the #1 play-by-play announcer for the NFL on CBS for many years. And some of his other partners calling NFL games was Paul Kreisman and Pat Summerall. And he left CBS Sports in 1974. He was dismissed as the #1 play-by-play announcer of the NFL games on CBS, but he was replaced by his color man, Pat Summerall. And also, during his career, Ray called others called football games on the radio after he left CBS Sports. He called the Chiefs games and the Buccaneers games and the Viking games on the radio for many years in like the 70s and 80s, so he stayed connected to the NFL. And he also narrated the NFL Game of the Week for NFL Films, which was syndicated for many years. Also, Ray Scott did baseball games on television for local in the 60s and 70s. He did it for from 1961 to 1966. He was the Minnesota Twins television and radio announcer. He actually got to do the 1965 World Series for NBC Sports, and he called the games in Minnesota because that's when back then NBC used local announcers to call World Series games. And Ray Scott's one of the only few broadcasters to call a World Series game and a Super Bowl on national television. The other ones were like Kirk Gowdy, Dick Enberg, Al Michaels, Joe Buck, and his father Jack Buck. So there's 6 of them who called Super Bowl games, Super Bowls, and World Series on television. And also, Ray Scott did other teams like the Washington Senators and the Milwaukee Brewers on television and the radio. And also, Ray Scott also did college football games on the radio and television as well. He called Penn State football games for a few years, and he also called the University of Arizona football team along with Minnesota football team and the University of Nebraska and UCLA back in the 80s and stuff like that. And he also did some USFL games on the radio as well. He was a play-by-play announcer with the Arizona Wranglers and the Portland Breakers for the USFL when they were in existence. And he also called golf and college basketball. And Ray also had kind of a news career as well for many years for WCCO AM out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. He read news during the morning hours for several years in the 70s and 80s, so he was real popular in the state of Minnesota as well, doing the news and stuff. And he won two times National Sportscaster of the Year. And Ray passed away in 1998. And he won the Pete Rozelle Award for Broadcasting Excellence from the Pro Football Hall of Fame posthumously in 2000. And in 2001, he was voted into the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame as contributor as posthumously, and he's probably one of the top 10 best football announcers of all time. And to this day, everybody likes his work, especially future broadcasters. I heard Chris Berman idolized him, and Jim Nantz and a few others idolized Ray Scott. He was one of the best football announcers of all time. He probably set the stage for the football announcers of today with his calls of games, and it was a great announcer. And you could see his work on it. If you get YouTube it and stuff like that, there must be some work of him calling football games. And that's about it on that. And I'll be back tomorrow for at least 3 more video blogs, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Tomorrow there will be no top 10 list because that's going to be taking a day off tomorrow. You have to rest these maybe once in a while. They need a break or so, just like when it's like a season. won 162 games for baseball season. You always have to have a player rest once in a while, so the top 10 list will be resting tomorrow and maybe Friday, but it will be back shortly. And don't forget, soon, very soon, is definitely going to be video blogs about Julie Broughton, Local 6, Orlando, Florida, the traffic report and former weekend weather forecaster. I told you that she has nice legs and a great smile. And another person who has nice legs and a great smile, Heidi Lee Pratt, Janelle Tobin, Crystal Pistol, Donald Beauregard, Tony Ramos, Dee Patel, Bruce Cronin, the biggest Yankees fan I ever known, Angelo, who scratches lots of scratch tickets and wins nothing, and many others. And coming in 10 days is my NBA 2014-2015 preview, and in November will be my first ever Q&A blog. Just send me in the questions, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. They'll get answered, and it's going to be awesome. And I'll see you tomorrow, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. Good night, everybody.